Hello, and welcome to another changing conversation on SGS Live. I'm PJ Kwong, and today we've got a great topic. We're going to be talking about exploring the latest tools, legislation, and real-world strategies enabling more circular and sustainable apparel and footwear. We're calling this session Reducing Environmental Footwork of the Apparel Industry, a Step Towards Circular Economy. Our experts will discuss the life cycle assessment, or LCA, guidance on addressing microplastics, and real case studies from brands shifting towards circular supply chains and what that means for some SGS stakeholders. As always, we are joined by expert guests who are in the know, starting with Global Softlines expert for SGS, Valérie Cimetière. Welcome, Valérie.
Hi, PJ. It's great to be here.
So great to have you. Our next guest is the SGS Senior Director, Softlines Technical Services and Operations for US and Canada, Min Zhu. Welcome, Min.
Hello, PJ. Thanks for having me.
This is going to be a great conversation. And I want to start at the very beginning, which is defining the following. What does circular fashion mean in practical terms? Valérie, this is for you.
Circular fashion refers to a system approach in the fashion industry that aims to eliminate waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use at the highest value, and regenerate natural system. It's a fundamentally different from the traditional fashion system, which is more linear. In practical terms, circular fashion involves eco-design, sustainable production, longer use, and also end-of-life management. It is the embodiment of a circular economy in fashion and textile industry.
So how close are we to achieving it in the textile and footwear industries? Min?
This is really a great topic. Circular fashion model has been promoted for years. As of now, the textile and footwear industries have made notable strides towards circularity after having put great efforts in the market. The key progress we see has been reflected in material innovations, business model shifts, and regulation establishment, and also consumer engagement and education. However, significant gaps still exist. Right now, only about 12% of textile waste is recycled globally, while the target of textile recycling rate is 30% in 2030. And footwear recycling is even lower at about less than 5%. Due to the complex constructions of footwear. So there are many challenges we need to address, and we have a long way to go to achieve a true full circular model. SGS, we are making our efforts to boost the circularity. In early 2024, SGS launched our sustainability service framework named the Impact Now. There are 4 pillars under this framework: circularity as the first one, climate, ESG assurance, and nature. So the pillar of circularity is to provide the various services with SGS expertise to embrace a circular economy and eliminate waste and contribute to the planet.
Right off the top, I mentioned life cycle assessment, or LCA. And Valérie, can you help us understand the real environmental impact of a garment or a shoe?
Yes, the life cycle assessment is a tool which will evaluate the impact on environment of different stages of production. So it is wider than carbon footprint, for example, and the LCA will take into account, for example, the water needed to transform raw cotton to gray fabric, and then from gray fabric to dyed fabric. And it will also take into account the energy required to produce garments, but also the impact of transportation, for example, boat versus plane. So collecting data about all these impacts on environment will help the companies to calculate their impact to produce one garment and to put it on the market.
So, Valerie, don't go anywhere because I'm going to stay with you for the moment because I want to know about limitations currently for LCA.
Yeah, it's true that LCA will evaluate the impacts on the whole or a part of the supply chain, but there is no official rules regarding the way and to define which impact categories have to be taken into account. So we don't see that, but there are many kinds of impacts, and so the LCA can be calculated differently between two companies, and then it is difficult for the consumer to compare and to get accurate information regarding the product you want to buy. And so we can say that LCA is really critical for regulatory compliance, reference, and sustainability measurement. But its limitation highlight the need for better and standardized data.
Yeah. You know what? Sometimes words, right? Anyway, I want to go on to a question for Min, and that is that the EU is pushing for product environmental footprint, or PEF, and PEFCR implementation. How do these differ from other sustainability tools like the Higg Index or Cradle to Cradle certification?
Indeed, there are various tools in the market to assess and to provide the guidance or assessment methodologies for sustainability performance. So the PEF or PEFCR is a product environmental footprint category rules. It's long term. That is, the EU is pushing PEF and PEFCR. So this is the standardized and comprehensive LCA-based methodology. So it assesses the entire life cycle of a product in 16 impact categories, like climate change, water use, resources, human toxicity. So in May 2025, the EU officially approved the PEFCR version 3.1 for apparel and footwear. So this version provides the product-specific guidelines, ensuring the consistency in assessment and supporting EU regulations like the CAP, ESPR, and the Green Claims Directive. Well, the Higg Index, it was developed by SAC Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Now it's a CASCAL. That includes multiple modules, like PM, MSI, FEM. So that those modules assess the impact up to the retail with focus on supply chain and manufacturing, but exclude the use and end of life phases. So Higg Index focus on industry-specific metrics, particularly apparel and footwear. Well, it does not really tie to regulatory compliance. Well, the Cradle to Cradle, you mentioned that. Yeah, that's a certification framework that evaluates product based on their circularity, environmental performance. It focuses more on the product design in circularity economy principle. But it's not the tool like PEF or Higg. So it's more a qualitative, not a quantitative metrics. So overall, PEF, PEFCR covers the entire life cycle and are highly standardized. Well, and also with the PEF, PEFCR being mandated in the EU, we suggest the industry giving more attention to these tools.
You know, this is such a huge topic and one that is so important and vital in sustainability. And I wanted to ask our audience the following. I came up with a poll question, and that is, how much textile waste can be diverted from landfills when principles of circularity are applied to the apparel sector? There are three choices. A is 12%, B, 47%, C, over 80%, 20%. If you want to put your answer in the chat window below, we'll check on them a little bit later. So the question, once again, how much textile waste can be diverted from the landfills when principles of circularity are applied to the apparel sector? The answers again are A, 12%, B, 47%, or C, over 80%. We're going to take a look at those answers a little bit later, put them in the chat window below. And don't forget, there will be a Q&A at the end of this interview session. Again, for questions and comments, they also can go in the chat window below. All right, Valerie, we're going to continue with our conversation with a very, very troublesome word, and that is microplastics. We hear about microplastics all the time, and microplastics from synthetic textiles are very much a growing concern. So how can brands reduce their contribution, and what role does regulation play here?
Yeah, so as you said, the microplastics are indeed an important concern. So we know that synthetic fibers release fragments during care cycles, and there are some studies about that. And at the beginning of the project, PEF didn't consider the microfiber release like an impact on environment. Of course, during the work they do on PEFCR, they add this criteria, and it is now an additional information which can be provided to the consumer. But we know also that microplastics can be released during other parts of the supply chain, like during the weaving or the knitting, and it will be released in the air, for example. And if for fiber fragmentation during the care cycles, we have some studies to what is the impact in water, and we can also test it. But studies regarding release in the air or in the soil are less, but in progress. So they will complete data needed to feed the LCA. Regarding regulations, they will help consumers to be aware of what microplastic mean. And for example, in France, the new washing machine must be equipped with the microplastic fibers, and a specific mention is now required to be added on website for any product, any textile garment containing more than 50% of synthetic fibers. Outside the EU, there is not so many regulations. They are limited, but there are some voluntary standards like ISO 4484, part 1, 2, 3, and coming soon, part 4, which are emerging.
So it looks like progress is being made in this area, but I'm wondering a little bit about durability, which is often cited as a key pillar to circularity, rather. How can that objectively be measured? Valerie, this is for you.
Yes, so the philosophy behind the PEFCR is to make the link between the environmental impacts to produce one garment and the time the garment can be worn by consumers. So the philosophy is the longer the garment lasts, the lower environment will be impacted by. So we can consider that there are two kinds of durability. So the intrinsic and the extrinsic durabilities. So it means that when you don't wear a garment anymore, it could be sometimes because the garment is damaged, so full of peels or torn or used. So it will be the intrinsic durability. But it could be also because you don't like it anymore, because it is out of fashion, or you lose weight and it is too big. So it is, in this case, the extrinsic durability. The first durability, intrinsic one, can be tested and evaluated because we know what are the more common end-of-life causes for garments. And then we can simulate wearing by making tests and also expect acceptable performance to define the intrinsic durability. For the second one, which is also called emotional durability, it is really difficult to evaluate because very subjective, and some works have also to be done on that part to improve the calculation.
Min, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I feel what Valerie just said about intrinsic and extrinsic durability. It's very interesting. It's very so regarding to the intrinsic durability. That is more measurable and tangible, right? So at SGS, we've done many projects for the clients related to durability. We helped our clients assess the durability and the longevity of various products, from a basic cotton t-shirt to bed sheets, from flip-flops to personal protective clothing. Sometimes we have to test after 100 times home laundering or 200 times commercial laundering. So by developing the appropriate durability evaluation protocols, so we are able to provide the client with the comprehensive, fact-based, and marketable results to support their durability claims and the product warranties to improve the confidence of the consumer confidence.
Do you know, I've got another question about consumer confidence, or maybe your confidence, and it's about greenwashing, which is rampant in fashion, I understand. So, what standards or metrics do you trust most when you're assessing a brand's sustainability claims that they're credible?
Greenwashing, greenwashing in fashion, that's really a big concern because brands often want to exaggerate the sustainability features or not disclose some substantiations. So we need trusted and third-party verified standards and metrics to assess the credibility of those claims. Fortunately, there are some well-defined standards we can use in the industry with this focused scopes of the standards. So, for example, Global Organic Textile Standards (GOTS), we know that certifies organic textiles, so to ensure chemical safety and fair labor. Blue Sign certificate, that's another well-known industry standard with the focus on product and supply chain chemical management and resource efficiency in textile manufacturing. Well, Fair Trade certification is another one that's well-known that verifies ethical labor and sustainable production. It looks for certified suppliers and transparency in sourcing. So traditionally, it wasn't widely adopted in textile industry, but now we see it starts to gain popularity. And of course, OCOTEX, science-based targets initiatives, SBTI, they are also the industry accepted standards and the metrics. So all of these standards have the specific measurable criteria and the metrics that, so we need to understand the business needs and then choose the appropriate and applicable standards, and also seek for the independent verification from third-party certifiers.
There is a lot going on. So, Min, I'm going to stay with you for the moment because I'd like to know about the biggest challenges brands face when they're trying to transition from a linear to a circular model, especially in terms of supply chain and product design.
Transitioning from a linear fashion economy that has existed for thousands of years to a circular economy model, that's easier said than done. So the first big challenge is the supply chain. So global textile and fashion supply chain is so complex. The restructuring supply chains need high volume of investment and in the technology advancement and the training. So it also needs to build a complex infrastructure system for collecting, recycling, and processing waste, particularly the post-consumer waste. So another big challenge is product eco-design. So product eco-design, so the entire industry needs to be trained with the mindset of eco-design. So starting from product design and development ideation from raw material selection, such as using durable, recyclable, or bio-based materials, or mono materials, regenerated materials, to product recyclability, repairability, disassemblability, and so on, to strategic planning in production and logistics. So all is to reduce the carbon emission and reduce the waste generation. So all of these are challenges, but meanwhile, I see that these are all opportunities.
I love how you look at things. And before we continue, I knew that our audience was going to be very interested in this topic. So let's have a quick look to see who has joined us today. As always, we've got the best global audience. Great great compliments. Thank you very much for all of this. I want to thank our audience, one and all, for joining us today. We're talking about the circular economy coming from the apparel sector. I'm speaking with my SGS experts, Valérie Cimetière and Min Zhu. Okay, we're going to get back to our conversation. And this is for you, Valérie. How do digital tools like digital product passports or environmental footprint labels help enable transparency and accountability in fashion?
This tool will provide to the consumer the information he will be able to compare. So that's why working on the same scope, as we explained previously, is really important to consider the same impact categories and then enable the consumer to choose the more sustainable garments he wants to buy. What I wanted to say also is that it is not the end of the fashion. It's a mean to help consumers to know what they do when they buy a garment. So if you want, you can compare with Nutri-Score for food. We have in France and also in other European countries. And it's not because chocolate has not a good score that you will stop eating some. I won't.
Me neither. Valérie, I want to know, what role do consumers play in driving change towards circularity, and how can they meaningfully assess a product's environmental footprint? Let's start with chocolate. No, I'm kidding.
Consumers have the power of buying, so then they have the power to influence brands regarding what they want. They can take into consideration the information provided by brands to select the more sustainable product, depending on LCA, durability, repairability, or any other criteria the consumer feels important to take into consideration before buying a product. So at the same time, the brands providing information will also show transparency and give the opportunity to consumers to know more about what they buy, and it could be considered as a virtual circle.
I want to go back for a moment. Do you remember our question when we were talking about how much textile waste can be diverted from landfills when principles of circularity are applied to the apparel sector? A was 12%, B 47%, and C was over 80%. Okay, if it was me answering, I would have said B for 40%. Let's take a quick look and see in our audience, 12%, okay. B, 47%, that's like me, 80%, 12%. So 47%. So it appears to me as if our audience sort of always going mid-range like me, or many people with the 47%, and those in the know with the 80%, which of course is the correct answer. When circular principles like reuse, recycling, and responsible design are implemented effectively, studies show that over 80% of textile waste can be kept out of landfills dramatically and reduce environmental impact. Are either of you surprised by the results from our audience?
Yeah, I would say I'm not surprised, but obviously some of our audience really noticed the significance of this issue, right? 80%, and I saw the one answer is over 80%. That's exactly the truth. So we know how massive this issue can be, right? And how much effort, if we put, can make the impact, right? And but meanwhile, we also see some selections. Some audience selected 20% A or B, which means, yes. So indeed, we need to keep educating our audience, our consumers, the community on how significant the impact can be.
And the impact is huge. Okay, this is my final question before our Q&A. And again, if you want in on our Q&A, just leave your question in the chat window below. Min, this is for you. Looking ahead 5 years, I hope you have your crystal ball. What key innovations or policy changes do you believe will define the next stage of sustainable fashion?
Well, this is a big question. Yes, I do wish I had a crystal ball so I can use to foresee for 5 years ahead. So no doubt, technology advancements, innovations, and the policy change will be the key driving forces of sustainability and circularity in coming years. And talking about innovation, I would say material innovation is a fundamental component. So everything starts from material, from the raw material, from fiber, from polymer, and advanced mechanically, chemically, or biologically recycled material, bio-based material, plant-based material, or the eco-friendly, better dyes and chemicals. Those are all the starting point we have to focus. And then the innovation in process plays the pivotal role as well. Now we see the AI technologies or blockchain technologies. If they are being used, they will optimize the production, ensure the transparency, and achieve the traceability. So they can be the game changers. So I would foresee many circular practices and the business models will be adopted in coming years. Well, talking about the policies and the regulation changes, that's what's happening now, and what will more will be coming soon. So EU market, EU CEAP, ESPR, CSDDD, CSRD, you see so many acronyms. They're all the regulations or directives that are driving circularity and ESG reporting. On the US side, US also has the regulations on PFAS bans or the EPR for packaging. So these regulations will no doubt push forward the circularity. So but we will need the joint effort of all stakeholders. So we believe the circular fashion is achievable. And SGS, we are playing our parts together with our partners and clients.
You know, this is very exciting because I feel like real progress is being made. The audience, you guys are great staying with us. And if we want to get your comments and questions in the chat window below, we're going right into our Q&A with my SGS expert guests, Valerie Cimetière and Minju. We're talking about creating circular economy within the apparel sector. Okay, we've got a great question from our audience. How the circular economy is being affected by the upward trend of the AI and technological advancement in the 21st century. Feb and Anthony, thank you for that question. Which one of you would like to take it?
Yeah, PJ, maybe I will take it. Okay.
Great.
Yeah. This is, first of all, this is awesome question. And this is really a cool question. Yeah. Just now I mentioned about the technology and the innovation, right? So AI absolutely will change our life, change our process, change a lot. So as everyone we have been experiencing. So AI technology, they are significantly changing a lot of games. Well, and specifically for the circularity and the textile recycling, particularly like a textile to textile recycling, we see AI technology has been used to enhance this process by addressing some key challenges and also improve the efficiency. So, so far, what I observed about AI applications in the textile recycling is mostly around the fiber, fabric, and the waste sorting and the composition identification. So we know some startup companies, they use AI technologies with the spectral imaging and machine learning to identify the textile composition and sort out the garments. That's really cool. And that will greatly improve the accuracy and efficiency in recycling, which will towards to circularity.
Fabian, thank you so much for that question. We've got another audience question coming right up. How do you ensure transparent sourcing? I think this is for you, Valerie, and it's from Cyrine Noumine.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, of course, it is a huge concern to be sure of the transparency when you work with different sourcing. So maybe Min, you will be able to complete my answer, but it is true that you have to work step by step and to start checking the tier 1, for example, regarding, and you have to use some tool to make it. And you can, for example, there is at SGS, we have a service called SGS Smart. So we can support you to follow this transparency and check with your suppliers that everything is clear and correctly trust. And then we can support you regarding that. And of course, it will be work to implement to follow the sourcing you have in different countries, for example. I don't know, maybe you want to add something.
Great.
So, if I may add a bit more, so Valerie has addressed this question very, very well. Transparency and traceability, right? Now it has become mandatory, and not just voluntary; it's mandatory. And transparency and material product traceability, it is challenging in the global, supply chain. Well, amid the supply chain shifting because of many factors, and we definitely need the tools to help our factory, help our supply chain and the buying and retailing brands to track the whole chain. And also we need to give a lot of educations to the suppliers, to the factories, and educate them how to collect the data, how to build up the documentation and the system, and then to feed the data into the system to achieve the full transparency and traceability. So, but that's definitely, we need to do it.
You know what? I've got another great question from the audience. It's one that I'm super interested in as well. And it's wondering, from your experience, either one or both of you, how much influence do environmental certifications have on buyers' purchasing decisions in the apparel industry today? Any ideas?
I can start. I think that these labels and this certification are more and more known by the consumers, and so they are more and more interested in. So, of course, it is a part of the education and the knowledge we need to give to the consumers to understand what it is about. And we can see more and more labels regarding the certification Min spoke previously, and they can show to the consumers, and it is the first step to show to the consumer what the brands do for the environment, and then how they will implement the sustainable features of the product to bring something more and more sustainable. And then it is really, for me, it is now something which is known by the consumers and taken into account. So, but it is also always something which has to be communicated and taught to the consumers.
Anything to add, Min?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. As Valerie said, now the buyers, retailers, brands, they all have the sustainability, environmental commitment and pledge. So they require the suppliers, the supply chain, to provide the verified, substantiated, or certified claims on the environmental features or sustainable features, and that becomes the business needs and the expectations. So many brands and retailers, they require and expect and require the certificates like raw materials or GRS, RCS, and many things so on. And also they also expect the low carbon footprint product.
Ruslan, thank you so much for that question. Okay, I have one final question. I'd love a couple of final thoughts from each of you on where members of our audience can start their own sustainability journey in the apparel sector. Min, let's start with you.
So yes, sustainability and circularity, this is such a broad scope and the ambitious commitment and ambitious goals. Remember, Rome was not built a day, right? We start from small, start from what we can do, what we can change, step by step, and keep going on, you will get there.
Perfect. Valerie, do you have anything to add?
Yes, exactly. I mean, each step is a good step. So it has to be made one by one. And what I can say, of course, is that SGS can support companies on this path and help them to take step by step the way to circularity.
Amazing. I'm going to have to stop things here, although honestly, I could talk about this for a whole long time. I want to thank my SGS expert guests, Valerie Cimetière and Min Zhu, and we've been talking about building circular economy within the apparel sector and what companies should know and do. We're so glad that you've been a part of this exciting, interesting, and informative session. And if you want more information, go to this short link, and you can find out what you want to know for sure. Anything else, leave a comment or question in our chat window below, and someone will get back to you after the conclusion of this session. In the meantime, I'm PJ Kwong. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.